What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports 200 Show. Today is May 10th, 2021. In this video, I want to be doing some draft grades of the AFC West teams. AFC West consists of the Las Vegas Raiders, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Denver Broncos, and the Kansas City Chiefs. So we're going to go ahead and get started here, starting off with the Las Vegas Raiders. You know, their first-round pick was a surprise to many, and including myself. They had another reach yet again during the Mike Mayock era. And with the 17th pick overall, they took Alabama offensive tackle Alex Leatherwood. He honestly, there was a chance he could have been there with their second-round pick. To me, this was arguably the worst pick of the first round. I think Peyton Turner with New Orleans Saints, it's a toss-up between those two. But Leatherwood here just does not make any sense. He was not even the top three best offensive tackle available. Christian Darrisaw was available, and he dropped to 20 to the Minnesota Vikings. Darrisaw was clearly a better offensive tackle. There was far more better offensive tackles than Leatherwood. This is just a horrible pick here by the Raiders. You know, they reached for Clelin Ferrell several years ago to number 4. They reached last year taking Damon Arnett, the corner from Ohio State, way too early. This is another reach, and this is a reason why the Las Vegas Raiders continue to be mediocre. It seems that they always reach in the first round, and that's where your best talent is the first round. Despite having an absolutely horrible pick in the first round, I do think the Raiders kind of made up for it though in the second round because they, in my opinion, had the best pick in the second round, arguably, picking TCU safety Trevon Moehrig. Moehrig, he's the best safety in the class, and it's not even close. Despite being the best safety, the best player at his position, he is extremely underrated and actually dropped to the second round, which surprised many people, including myself, because I was a lot higher on Moehrig than most people. He is absolutely phenomenal in pass coverage. He has the most pass deflections the past 2 seasons among safeties. He has the highest grade in pass coverage among safeties this past season. And they drafted Jonathan Abrams, the safety from Mississippi State, back in 2019. He's a really, really great player, but he's been unable to stay on the field. In just 2 seasons, he's only played 13 games for the Raiders. I think it was really, really smart here, getting an insurance policy or maybe even a future replacement for Abrams, because Trevon Moehrig right here is a phenomenal pick. And I think, people talking about the Leatherwood pick at 17, which is, it's a horrible pick. I think people are really talking about that more than the Moehrig pick, which I don't really understand, because Moehrig, I kind of think it makes up for the Leatherwood pick a little bit. Because let's say if you take Trevon Moehrig at 17 and Alex Leatherwood at 43, I don't see the difference between that. I think you just picked the 2 players. If you swap where you got them, I think Raider fans would be a lot more accepting of the Leatherwood pick and a lot more happy within their first 2 rounds. With their third round pick, they kind of reached just like they did with Leatherwood in the first round, and they took Buffalo edge rusher Malcolm Koonce. This pick really makes no sense at all. Malcolm Koonce, to many, had a 5th round grade, maybe even a 6th round grade. But this is something I kind of talked about a lot throughout the draft process. Well, there's so many great edge rushers, lots of teams are going to have different rankings without their edge rushing class. Patrick Jones, an edge rusher from Pittsburgh, Jordan Smith from UAB, Ellerson Smith from Northern Iowa, are just 3 edge rushers I think are a lot better than Malcolm Koonce. There's a lot more too, but I think this was a reach for a position you don't desperately need. And he reached at a position that he wasn't even a top 3, probably not even a top 5 player at his position available. So I really do not like this pick here by the Raiders. This was another reach yet again for Mayock and Gruden. They actually had the next pick after that, and they took Virginia Tech safety Devon Diablo. This is not a bad pick, but they already took Trevon Moehrig. It really appears that they are kind of done with Jonathan Abrams. He's only played 2 years and not even played a full 16 games combined in those 2 years. You took your safety of the future Moehrig. You took another safety in the next round. They're really, really trying to upgrade their safety position and get more depth in the secondary. I thought this was a pretty decent pick here by the Las Vegas Raiders. In the 4th round, they yet again take another safety. In the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th rounds, they take a safety in each of those rounds. They triple up on safety. I don't understand this pick at all. It's one thing to, maybe attack position early if it's best player available, but you've already had 3 safeties in the first 145 picks of the draft. You've had 5 picks of the draft, and your first 3 out of the 5 were safeties. This pick makes no sense. At this point, they're just reaching again, like they were with Leatherwood. and Malcolm Kuntz in the 3rd round. I do not understand this pick here by the Raiders. It just does not make any sense at all. I mean, there's bigger needs, maybe a quarterback, maybe a wide receiver to help Derek Carr. Because they don't really have any great wide receivers in Vegas for Carr to throw to. This is another bad pick here for the Las Vegas Raiders. In the 5th round, I take Illinois' cornerback Nate Hobbs. I thought this was a pretty decent pick. Hobbs is one of the better corners here around this pick. Like I said, they're really trying to upgrade their secondary. This is not a bad pick at all. I think this is a pretty nice pick here by the Raiders. If you're going corner, I thought Hobbs was the way to go, but I thought this was a nice pick here by the Raiders, which is something I've not said pretty much at all throughout this Raiders draft grade. For the Raiders' final selection of the 2021 draft, they took Pittsburgh center Jimmy Morrissey. I thought this was a pretty decent pickup here by Las Vegas. Morrissey was the best student available here. They can use some interior offensive line help because they no longer have Rodney Hudson. I really like this pick here. I think this is kind of maybe one of the more underrated picks here in the 2021 NFL draft. Overall, I give the Las Vegas Raiders a draft grade of a B-. There's a few picks where I really think Las Vegas had some nice selections, especially Trevon Moehrig, because I think that's one of the best picks in the entire NFL draft. The Jimmy Morrissey pick I liked quite a bit, and the Nate Hobbs one was not bad either. But aside from those picks, I was not really a fan of any of them. They were all reaches in my opinion, and this is just another year where the Raiders reach, it seems like, for the majority of their picks. Some people think maybe going into the season the Raiders could be in the playoff contention. After this draft, I don't think that's likely. If they would have had a good draft, possibly, but I really don't think they had that good of a draft. But overall, I ended up giving the Raiders a draft grade of a B-. Next up is the Los Angeles Chargers. The Los Angeles Chargers had the 13th pick overall, and with that pick, they took Northwestern offense tackle Rashawn Slater. This is 100%, in my opinion, arguably the best pick in the entire draft. The Chargers last season, they had no players who had a PFF grade higher than a 66 overall rating. Rashawn Slater was arguably the best offense tackle in the draft. Some people had Penei Sewell, but some top draft analysts had Slater as their #1 offensive lineman. Slater did not play in the 2020 season, but in 2019, he had 355 pass blocking snaps. He only gave up 5 quarterback pressures and did not allow a single sack. The Chargers actually had a worse offensive line than the Cincinnati Bengals last season. This is easily the best pick of day 1 of the draft. You can make a case that this is the best selection in the entire NFL draft. Protecting your investment in Justin Herbert is a must. You cannot let Herbert get hurt like Joe Burrow did with Cincinnati last season. You literally cannot get any better than this if you're a Los Angeles Chargers fan, getting Rashawn Slater here at number 13 overall. In the 1st round, the Los Angeles Chargers got a massive steal in Rashawn Slater, getting him at 13th overall. And you get another massive steal here in the 2nd round, and getting Asante Samuel Jr., the cornerback from Florida State University, at the 47th pick overall. Asante Samuel Jr. was easily the best corner available. He was arguably the best player available as well. The Chargers could use some corner help. This is a fantastic pick. If you're the Chargers fan, you cannot be any happier with getting Slater in round 1 and Asante Samuel Jr. in round 2. You look at all the teams who had 1st and 2nd round picks. I don't think any team had a better round 1 and round 2 combo than the Los Angeles Chargers. This is a match made in heaven for both these players. This is an amazing pick here by the Chargers. And round 3, however, the getting steals in rounds 1 and 2, that did not happen in round 3. They took Tennessee wide receiver Josh Palmer. This pick to me was absolutely shocking. Damani Brown, the wide receiver from North Carolina, was available. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the wide receiver from USC, was available. Josh Palmer was arguably not a top 5 wide receiver at this pick here. This was a big reach. I definitely think there were some much better wide receivers available. But if you want your guy, go ahead and get him. And Herbert can use some weapons. I don't love this pick. I don't hate the pick. I kind of have mixed feelings about this. But it's still not a bad pickup here for the Chargers, continuing their pretty nice trend of getting some nice players here in the draft. They actually had 2 third-round picks, and with their second third-round pick, they took Georgia tight end Trey McKitty. I was not surprised at all that the Chargers took a tight end in the 3rd round because I really thought it was going to happen. But I am surprised, however, who it was. I did not think Trey McKitty was going to be up this far on draft boards. I thought he was going to be a mid-5th round pick, maybe early 6th round. I thought for sure Brevin Jordan, the tight end from Miami, Florida, was going to be this pick here at 97 overall, but due to his horrific pro day, he slid a ton in the draft. Trey McKitty is a decent tight end, but I think this is a little bit early to take Trey McKitty. If you were to tell me maybe with the 118th pick, their 4th-round pick, or their 5th-round pick at 159, I would be really happy with that. But him here, I think that's a little bit too early to get Trey McKitty. In the 4th round, I took one of my favorite edge rushers in the draft, and Duke edge rusher Chris Rumph. I was really surprised Rumph went this early. Heading into the draft, you look at all the big board rankings, like from PFF and Pro Football Network and everything like that, WalterFootball.com. Chris Rumph, he was projected to be in the 6th and 7th round. I thought, he was going to maybe go in the mid-5th or early 6th. Get him here in the early 4th. I'm not against them taking Chris Rumph, but I am kind of against them taking Chris Rumph here this early. Like I said, they had pick 159. I definitely think Chris Rumph would have been there. And, like I said, he's one of my favorite edge rushers, but I do think it's a little bit too early for his talent here at 118. It's not a bad pickup, but I think it's a little bit of a reach here for the LA Chargers. In the 5th round, with the 159th pick overall, they took Nebraska offensive tackle Brendan James. I thought this was a nice pickup. They need some more offensive line help. He was one of the better offensive tackles available, and like I said, the Chargers' offensive line last season was arguably the worst in the entire NFL. They got an absolute steal on Rashawn Slater in round 1, getting James here in round 5. You could have a possible nice tackle duo in LA. Would not be surprised if James maybe sits a little bit. This might be more of a depth pick, but overall, it's a pretty solid draft pick here for the Los Angeles Chargers. In the 6th round, they took Iowa linebacker Nick Niemann. Last season, I took Kenneth Murray, the linebacker from Oklahoma, in the 1st round. He's not really lived up to expectations. I like the idea of them getting more depth here at linebacker in the later rounds. Around these picks here, you always try to get best player available instead of position needs. I think that's kind of what they did here, getting Niemann. With 185 overall, solid pickup for LA and gives them more depth at the linebacker position. They actually had 2 6th-round picks, and with their 2nd 6th-round pick, they took Missouri running back Larry Rountree. I thought this was a decent pickup. Austin Eckler had some injuries last season. They have some decent backups behind him. But I think getting a running back here in the later rounds was not a bad idea. But I would absolutely love to see the Chargers get Javian Hawkins, their running back from Louisville here. It's not a bad pickup at all. I think it's decent. It's a nice pickup for the Chargers to give them more depth at running back. Rountree was one of the better running backs here available, and they could use a running back with Austin Eckler's injuries this past season, so I do not think this is a bad pick at all here for the LA Chargers at 198. They had 1 7th-round pick, and that happened to be their last pick of the draft, and then took Georgia safety Mark Webb. I thought this was a nice pickup here, getting more depth at safety. Mark Webb was one of the best safeties available here, and you have Derwin James, one of the top safeties in the entire NFL, but he struggled to stay on the field. I like the depth pickup here for the Chargers. He was one of the best safeties available. He was one of the better players in the secondary available. This was a nice pickup here for the Chargers, getting more depth at safety, especially because Derwin James has just been unable to stay on the field the past few seasons. Overall, I ended up giving the Los Angeles Chargers a draft grade of a B+. Rashawn Slater in round 1 and Asante Samuel Jr. in round 2. You literally could not get better than that. But there were some other picks in the mid rounds I was not really too fond of. They weren't horrible picks. They weren't great picks. I was kind of mad about, especially the Josh Palmer pick at 77 overall. But I thought the Chargers had a great draft. And with this draft, I would not be shocked one bit of the LA Chargers were in playoff contention or even made the playoffs this upcoming season in the NFL. Next up on the AFC West draft grades is the Denver Broncos. With the 9th selection overall, they took Alabama cornerback Patrick Surtain. Before free agency started, I pretty much had Surtain going to Denver on the majority of my mock drafts. But, they really tackled corner in free agency. Then they got Fuller from Chicago. Fuller was actually all-pro when Fangio was with Chicago with Fuller in the secondary. They signed him in the free agency. So I was kind of surprised that they took Surtain here. It's not a great pick. It's not a horrible pick. But Justin Fields being here at number 9. I think Drew Lock still has potential, and I'm not ready to give up on him like most Denver fans are. But Justin Fields here at number 9. I really thought Denver should have considered taking him here. And also Penn State linebacker Micah Parsons. Look at their 2 biggest needs. You can make a case that their 2 biggest needs are quarterback and linebacker. They did not address either one here in round 1, despite those 2 players probably being the best players available here. This pick here with Denver was not a great pick. It wasn't horrible. It was decent, but I do not think it was a fantastic pick here by Denver. I did not think Denver had a fantastic pick in round 1, but I do, however, think they had a fantastic pick here in round 2. They traded up to get North Carolina running back Javonte Williams. In free agency, they lost Philip Lindsay to the Houston Texans. They have Melvin Gordon, but he's only on a 1-year contract, and he's getting up there in age, and he is not what he used to be. Javonte Williams is a great running back, and some people thought he was actually better than Clemson running back Travis Etienne, who ended up going to the Jaguars in the first round. I mean, now you look at the Denver Broncos offense. You have Javonte Williams, Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, KJ Hamler, Tim Patrick, Noah Fant. They definitely have one of the best young offenses in the NFL. They just need to find their quarterback, and they could be a real threat in the AFC. This was a fantastic pick here, getting Javonte Williams in round 2. The Broncos had 2 third-round picks, but with their first third-round pick, they took Wisconsin Whitewater guard/center Quinn Merritt. This was a great pickup. This was definitely a steal. The Broncos' offensive line struggled last season due to some players opting out due to the coronavirus, and some players were injured. They could definitely use some help in the interior offensive line. Quinn Merritt was probably the one player that helped his draft stock the most at the Senior Bowl. He really impressed scouts during his interview process and throughout the game as well. This was a fantastic pick here by the Denver Broncos, getting Quinn Merritt at 98 overall. This was a steal for the Denver Broncos. Like I said, the Denver Broncos had 2 third-round picks, and with their second third-round pick, they took Ohio State linebacker Baron Browning. This is another steal, and you can make a case this is even a bigger steal than the Quinn Merritt's pick just a few selections before here. Baron Browning should have been a second-round pick. He had a really nice pro day. Like I said, the Denver Broncos' biggest need was probably linebacker, and getting one of the top linebackers in the entire NFL draft, the 105th pick overall here, is outstanding. It's fantastic value. This is one of the better value picks in the entire NFL draft. If you're a Denver fan, I do not understand how you could be upset with this pick. This was a team need. This was best player available, and this was a awesome pick here for the Denver Broncos. In round 5, they double up on safety. With their first 5th-round pick, they took Texas safety Caden Stearns. This was a nice pickup here. Caden Stearns was one of the better safeties in the draft, but he's had some injury issues, and that's why he fell so much. They signed Simmons to a huge extension in free agency. I think maybe getting some safeties for more depth position is a great idea for Denver. Caden Stearns here was a fantastic pick in the 5th round. Like I said, they had 2 5th-round picks, and with their second 5th-round pick, they took another safety, an Indiana safety, Jamar Johnson. You can make a case as a bigger steal than the Caden Stearns selection just a few picks before here. Lots of these picks by Denver, Quinn Merritt, Baron Browning, Caden Stearns, Jamar Johnson, these are absolute steals for the Denver Broncos. Getting Jamar Johnson here, you might say he's even better than Caden Stearns, but getting more depth at safety, all of a sudden they have a really nice young defense. This is a fantastic selection by the Broncos in the 5th round. In the 6th round, the Denver Broncos took Auburn wide receiver Seth Williams. Seth Williams was one of the better receivers here in the 6th. I don't think this was a bad pick, but I think they maybe could have took a quarterback here. Maybe Felipe Franks, from Arkansas. I don't think Franks is going to be a starter for a quarterback, but I like him as a project guy for the Denver Broncos. But Seth Williams here was not a bad pick at all. Getting wide receiver here to even get more talent to throw to. Whoever your quarterback is going to be, they're going to have tons of talented receivers to throw to. I thought this was a pretty solid pickup here by the Broncos in the 6th. The Denver Broncos actually had 3 7th-round picks. I always hate the idea when teams have this many late-round picks and they opt to not trade them. But with their first 7th-round pick, this is definitely my favorite late-round pick of theirs. They took LSU cornerback Kerry Vincent Jr. Kerry Vincent Jr. was the best corner here available. He was the best player here available. Like I said, they signed Fuller, but he was actually to a 1-year contract. That's retained in round 1. They get more corner depth here in round 7. And, you look at 7th-round picks. They don't often make the team, but when their best player available, they're more likely to do. Despite being a 7th-round pick, Kerry Vincent Jr. will easily make the team. I would not be surprised if he has a decent amount of snaps this season for the Denver Broncos. This was a fantastic pick and just another steal here for the Denver Broncos. Like I said, they had 3 7th-round picks, and with these last 2 7th-round picks, they took edge rushers. Their first edge rusher pick was Ohio State edge rusher Jonathan Cooper. Getting more depth at edge is not a bad idea. Like I said, though, I do not like the idea of having this many late-round picks because realistically, I do not think maybe either one of these edge rushers will end up making the team. But, Bradley Chubb, his contract's ending up soon. Von Miller's getting up there in age. I do not think it's a bad idea to double up on edge in the 7th. And with their other 7th-round pick, they took an edge in Mississippi State edge rusher or Keith Spencer. These aren't bad picks, but realistically, I just don't know if they'll make the team because the Denver Broncos had so many draft picks in here, and they had 3 7th-round picks. I don't see a scenario at all where there's 3 7th-round picks making the team on the Denver Broncos. Overall, I thought the Denver Broncos had a very nice draft, ended up giving them an overall draft grade of an A. They had some fantastic steals. There was a few picks I was not ecstatic about, but overall, I thought the Denver Broncos had a really nice draft, and if Drew Lock could just be consistent this season, I would not be surprised at all if the Denver Broncos were in playoff contention this upcoming season. The last team I'll be doing my AFC West draft grades of is the Kansas City Chiefs. They did not have a first-round pick due to the Orlando Brown trade with the Baltimore Ravens, but they did get 2 second-round picks. They had their original second-round pick, and they got a second-round pick in return from the Orlando Brown trade. And with their second-round pick they got from the Ravens, they took Missouri linebacker Nick Bolton. This was a fantastic pick here. This was best player available. This was a team need. This was just a great pick here by Kansas City. Last season they actually took a linebacker in the second round, and Willie Gay Jr. from Mississippi State. He was actually one of my favorite linebackers coming out last season. He's not really performed like Kansas City thought he would, and they just really need some more depth at linebacker. I thought getting Nick Bolton here at the 58th pick overall was pretty much a best case scenario here for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like I said, they had 2 second-round picks, and with their second-round pick, they took Oklahoma center Creed Humphrey. This was a nice pick here. They signed so many free agents and traded to get some nice offensive linemen in free agency. They get Creed Humphrey, who could possibly be their starting center. They signed Joe Thuney. They traded for Orlando Brown. They did some amazing improvements for their offensive line because they saw how much Mahomes scrambled for his life in the Super Bowl last season. And something interesting about the Super Bowl and Mahomes scrambling, he actually scrambled more in that game, running for his life, trying not to get sacked, than Joe Mixon actually had rushing yards the entire NFL season last year. But Creed Humphrey here is an absolute steal. This is the best player available. This is a team need. The Kansas City Chiefs really had a grand slam picks here, getting Nick Bolton and Creed Humphrey both in the second round with late round picks. Getting some more depth at linebacker and protecting Patrick Mahomes, you can't really get better than that if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan. They did not have a third-round pick with their fourth-round pick selection. They ended up taking Florida State edge rusher Joshua Kendo. This was not a great pick by any means. He was not on my top 3 or 5 edge rushers available. I thought this was a little early for taking an edge rusher, but it's not a horrible pickup. It's definitely not a great pickup either. I'm kind of mixed feelings about this, but you're not going to have a great pick with every single pick, and this is definitely not one of those great picks here by the Kansas City Chiefs. With their 5th-round pick, they took a tight end from Duke, Noah Gray, to get some more depth at tight end in case Travis Kelce goes down. I thought this was a pretty decent pickup here for the Chiefs. He's one of the better tight ends available. I would also like to see Quentin Morris and Bowling Green maybe around this pick too. But getting a tight end was a nice touch for the Chiefs in the later rounds. Getting more depth at tight end, like I mentioned, he was the best tight end available. One of the better players available as well. So this was a pretty decent pickup here for the Chiefs in the 5th. They actually had 2 5th-round picks, and with their second 5th-round pick selection, they took Clemson wide receiver Cornell Powell. Powell was the best wide receiver here. They used some wide receiver depth after losing Sammy Watkins to the Baltimore Ravens in free agency. I love this pickup here for the Kansas City Chiefs to just give Patrick Mahomes some more weapons to throw to. You drafted offensive line, you signed offensive line, you traded for offensive line. That's good for Patrick Mahomes, and now it's time to get him some more weapons. Getting Cornell Powell here in round 5, a possible Sammy Watkins replacement here in the 5th round. I thought this was an awesome pick here for the Kansas City Chiefs. For the final selection of the 2021 NFL Draft, the Chiefs ended up taking Tennessee guard Trey Smith. This is an A-plus pick. This is absolutely phenomenal. This is one of the best steals in the entire draft. Trey Smith, dropped due to blood clot issues he had several years ago at Tennessee. It reminds me of a very similar situation with Maurice Hurst, the Michigan defense tackle, several years ago. He was projected to be a first-round pick, but due to his heart issues, he ended up being a 5th-round pick. And lots of teams were scared about his medical issues, and he dropped it so far. And it's a very similar situation with Trey Smith. If it was not for the blood clot issues, Trey Smith would probably be a 2nd-round pick. He ended up dropping to the 6th, and the Chiefs get best player available, a team need, and give Patrick Mahomes even more protection on the offensive side of the ball. This is an awesome pick here for the Chiefs. In my opinion, I do not think you could have got a better pick here for the Kansas City Chiefs at 226. Overall, I ended up getting the Kansas City Chiefs overall draft grade of an A. They had some great picks like Nick Bolton, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith. There was a few picks I was not ecstatic about, like Joseph Kendo or Noah Gray. They were decent, but they were not great by any means. To recap this AFC West draft grades video, the Las Vegas Raiders had a B-, the Los Angeles Chargers had a B+, the Denver Broncos had a A, and the Kansas City Chiefs also had an A as well. Thank you all so much for listening. If you could like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel, I would greatly appreciate it, and I will see you next time on the Sports 200 Show.